The Long Island serial killer, also referred to as Lisk, the Gilgo Beach Killer or the Craigslist Ripper, is an unidentified suspected serial killer who is believed to have murdered 10 to 16 people over a period of nearly 20 years, mostly prostitutes, and left their bodies in areas on the South Shore of Long Island, New York. The victims were found along the Ocean Parkway, near the remote beach towns of Gilgo and Oak Beach in Suffolk County, and the area of Jones Beach State Park in Nassau County. The remains of 4 victims were found in December 2010, while 6 more sets of remains were found in March and April 2011. Police believe the latest sets of remains predate the 4 bodies found in December 2010. On May 9, 2011, authorities surmised that 2 of the newest sets of remains might be the work of a second killer. On November 29, 2011, the police stated their belief that one person is responsible for all 10 deaths. They also had concluded that the case of Shannon Gilbert, an escort who disappeared before the first set of bodies were found, was not related. It is clear that the area in and around Gilgo Beach has been used to discard human remains for some period of time, said Suffolk County District Attorney Thomas Spoda. Police investigation. In May 2010, Suffolk County Police were searching for Shannon Gilbert, a 24-year-old woman from New Jersey, who was working as an escort and was reported missing on May 1 of that year. She was last seen in the Oak Beach area after she ran from a client's house, where her driver, Michael Pack, was waiting outside. In December 2010, a police officer and his dog, on a routine training exercise, discovered the first body, the skeletal remains of a woman in a nearly disintegrated burlap sack. This discovery led to a search, and 3 more bodies were found 2 days later in the same area, on the north side of the Ocean Parkway. Suffolk County Police Commissioner Richard Dormer said, 4 bodies found in the same location pretty much speaks for itself. It's more than a coincidence. We could have a serial killer. A few months later, in late March and early April 2011, 4 more bodies were discovered in another area off the Parkway, near Oak Beach and Gilgo Beach. Suffolk police expanded the search area up to the Nassau County border, looking for more victims. On April 6, Detective Lieutenant Kevin Smith of the Nassau County Police Department said that his office will further explore and investigate any criminal activity which may be in close proximity to the recently discovered human remains found in Suffolk. Smith also said that Nassau County Police would be coordinating with Suffolk County and New York State Police on the investigation. 5 days later, the search for more bodies began in Nassau County. An additional set of partial human remains was found, as well as a separate skull, bringing the potential total number of victims found since December to 10. On April 22, 2 human teeth were found about a foot from the skull. On June 16, 2011, Suffolk County Police raised the reward from $5,000 to $25,000, the largest offered in the county's history, for information leading to an arrest in the Long Island murders. On September 20, police released composite sketches of 2 of the unidentified victims whose remains were found in March and April, an Asian male and Jane Doe number 6, as well as photos of jewelry found on the remains of a female toddler and her mother, found on April 4 and 11, respectively. The toddler's mother was reported as one of the sets of remains found in Nassau County on April 11. Also on September 20, police revealed that the second set of remains found in Nassau County on April 11 matched 2 legs found in 1996 in a garbage bag that had washed up on Fire Island. As of September 22, 2011, the police had received over 1,200 tips via text, email and phone since the beginning of the investigation. On November 29, 2011, police announced that they believed one person is responsible for all 10 murders, and that the person is almost certainly from Long Island. The single killer theory was related to common characteristics among the condition and forensic evidence related to the bodies. On December 13, 2011, police announced that the remains of Shannon Gilbert were found in a marsh about half a mile from where she had disappeared. A week earlier, they had found some of her clothes and belongings in the same vicinity. Police believe that Gilbert accidentally drowned after stumbling into the marsh. Her mother disagrees. Gilbert was last seen banging on a resident's door and screaming for help before running off into the night. Gilbert made a 911 call that night, saying she feared for her life. On December 10, 2015, Suffolk County Police Commissioner Tim Sinney announced that the FBI had officially joined the investigation. The day before, former Police Commissioner James Burke, who resigned in October, had been indicted for alleged police brutality and other issues. He was said to have blocked FBI involvement in the Lisk cases for years. A spokesperson for the FBI confirmed their official involvement. The FBI had previously assisted in the search for victims, but was never officially part of the investigation. On September 12, 2017, Suffolk County Prosecutor Robert Biancavilla, from the county's office, announced that John Bitrolf, a carpenter from Manorville, Long Island, who was convicted in May 2017 and sentenced in September in the homicides of two prostitutes in 1993 and 1994, was a suspect in at least one of the Lisk murders. Bitrolf had been linked to the 1990s murders by DNA. The police made no comment, as the Lisk homicide investigation is active. In June 2019, a proposal was made to use genetic genealogy to identify the unidentified victims and possibly the killer. On January 16, 2020, Suffolk County Police Commissioner Geraldine Hart released images of a belt found at the crime scene with the letters HM or WH, depending on which way the belt was looked at, embossed in the black leather. The belt was found during the initial investigation near Ocean Parkway in Gilgo Beach. Police believe the belt was handled by the perpetrator and did not belong to any of the victims. The police revealed few details regarding this piece of evidence, and would not comment on exactly where the belt was found. It was also announced that new scientific evidence was being used in the investigation, and that they had launched GilgoNews.com on a website enabling the police to share news and receive tips regarding the investigation. In May 2020, the identity of Jane Doe No. 6 had been confirmed, but her name was not released to the public. On May 28, 2020, she was identified as Valerie Mack, who also went by the name of Melissa Taylor. Identity of the killer. The media has speculated about the profile of the killer, referred to by police as Joe C., unknown subject. According to the New York Times, it is most likely a white male in his mid-20s to mid-40s who is very familiar with the South Shore of Long Island and has access to burlap sacks, which he uses to hold the bodies for disposal. He may have a detailed knowledge of law enforcement techniques, and perhaps ties to law enforcement, which have thus far helped him avoid detection. Newsday reporters speculated that serial killer Joel Rifkin, a former resident on LI, may have been responsible for some of the older remains found in March and April 2011. 4 of the victims' complete bodies were never found. In an April 2011 prison interview with Newsday, Rifkin denied having anything to do with recently discovered remains. Suspects and persons of interest. James Burke. On December 15, 2016, the attorney for Gilbert's family said that an escort who had conducted business with former Suffolk County Police Chief James Burke claimed he was connected to the Long Island murders. In November 2016, Burke had been sentenced to 46 months in federal prison, along with 3 years of supervised release, for beating a man who stole a duffel bag filled with sex toys and pornography from his vehicle. Burke had pleaded guilty in February 2016 to charges of a civil rights violation and conspiracy to obstruct justice. Gilbert's attorney said in December that one escort claimed that she wanted to have rough sex with Burke during an Oak Beach party. The escort identified herself as Lien. She specifically stated that at the first party she attended in April 2011 in Oak Beach, she saw Burke drag an Asian-looking woman by the hair to the ground. She stated that the woman did, however, think that this was playful rather than violent. Lien said that when she saw him for the second time, she decided to hook up with him, as she was told that he was a high-ranking official and that was intriguing to her. She described that he violently yanked her head during oral sex to the point where she started tearing up. Burke was unable to reach orgasm and proceeded to throw $300-400 microsecond dollars at her afterward. This was in August 2011. At this time she was not a professional prostitute, and she states that this was the first time she was paid for sex. Burke was reported to have blocked an FBI probe of the Lisk case during his time as police chief. John Bitrolf. On September 12, 2017, Suffolk County Prosecutor Robert Biancavilla said that John Bitrolf, a Suffolk County resident convicted of murdering 2 prostitutes and suspected in the murder of a third, was a suspect in at least one of the Lisk murders. Biancavilla stated that Bitrolf was likely responsible for the deaths of other women, and that there were similarities between the Gilgo Beach crime scenes and Bitrolf's known murders, for which he was convicted in May 2017 and sentenced in September. Bitrolf was arrested in 2014, linked by DNA found on 2 prostitute homicide victims, Rita Tangradi and Colleen McNamee, whose bodies were found in 1993 and 1994, respectively. The match had been made through DNA submitted by his brother, who was convicted in 2013 in an unrelated case. Bitrolf was convicted in May 2017 of these murders, and in September sentenced to consecutive terms of 25 years for each murder. The Suffolk County Police did not comment on the prosecutor's statement, due to the active homicide investigation of the Lisk murders. Bitrolf's attorney rejected the prosecutor's assertion. A married carpenter, Bitrolf had lived in Manorville, 3 miles from where the torsos of Lisk victims Jessica Taylor and Jane Doe No. 6 were recovered. See victims in section below. Biancavilla said that Bitrolf was a hunter who was said to enjoy the killing of animals. The grown daughter of Rita Tangradi, one of Bitrolf's known victims, was reported to be best friends with Melissa Barthélemy, one of the Gilgo Beach victims. Barthélemy's mother said that her daughter Melissa had a lot of calls to Manorville from her phone before her death. Joseph Brewer, an Oak Beach resident, was one of the last people known to have seen Shannan Gilbert alive. He hired her as an escort from Craigslist on the night of her disappearance. Brewer said that shortly after Gilbert arrived at his residence, she began acting erratically and fled into the night. Gilbert was reportedly seen running through Oak Beach, pounding on the doors of homes in Brewer's neighborhood. Around this time, Gilbert called 911, saying that they were trying to kill her. However, police did not find any evidence of wrongdoing, and Brewer was quickly cleared as a suspect. Dr. Peter Hackett. 2 days after Gilbert's disappearance, Dr. Peter Hackett, an Oak Beach resident and neighbor of Brewer, called the woman's mother, Marie Gilbert. She later recounted that he said he was taking care of Gilbert, and that he ran the home for wayward girls. 3 days later, he called the mother again, denying that he had any contact with her daughter, and that he had called Marie Gilbert. Investigators later confirmed through phone records that Hackett called Marie twice following the disappearance. The marshy area where Gilbert's remains were found was also noted as near Hackett's backyard. Gilbert's family filed a wrongful death suit against Hackett in November 2012, claiming that he took Gilbert into his home that morning and administered drugs to her, facilitating her death. Later police revealed that Hackett had a history of inserting himself into, or exaggerating his role in, certain major events. Police also noted that Hackett's wife and 2 children were home on the night of Gilbert's disappearance. Police later ruled out Hackett as a suspect in the deaths of Gilbert and the Lisk victims. James Bissett. 2 days after Shannan Gilbert's remains were found, James Bissett took his own life while in his car at Mattituck Park. He ran a nursery which was the main supplier of burlap in the region. Victims. Bodies discovered in December 2010. Of the 10 bodies or sets of remains found since late 2010, the 4 discovered in December 2010 have been identified as missing prostitutes who all advertised their services on Craigslist. Each had been strangled and her body wrapped in a burlap sack before being dumped along Gilgo Beach. All are believed to have been killed elsewhere. Identified Maureen Brainerd Barnes, 25, of Norwich, Connecticut, was an escort who advertised her services online. Maureen, who was 4 feet 11 inches tall and 105 pounds, was last seen on July 9, 2007, saying that she planned to spend the day in New York City. She was never seen again. Maureen, a struggling mother, worked as a paid escort via Craigslist to pay the mortgage on her house. She had been out of the sex industry for 7 months, but she returned to the work in order to pay her bills after receiving an eviction notice. Her body was found in December 2010. Shortly after her disappearance, a friend of Maureen's, Sarah Carnes, received a call from a man on an unfamiliar number. The man claimed that he had just seen Maureen and that she was alive and staying at a whorehouse in Queens. He refused to identify himself and could not tell Carnes the location of the house. He told Carnes he would call back and give her the address, but he never called again. Carnes said that the man had no discernible New York or Boston accent. Melissa Barthélemy, 24, of Erie County, New York, went missing on July 10, 2009. She had been living in the Bronx and working as an escort through Craigslist. On the night she went missing, she met with a client, deposited $900 in her bank account, and attempted to call an old boyfriend, but did not get through. Beginning 1 week later, and lasting for 5 weeks, her teenage sister, Amanda, received a series of vulgar, mocking and insulting calls from a man who may have been the killer using Melissa's cell phone. The caller asked if Amanda was a whore like her sister. The calls became increasingly disturbing, and eventually culminated in the caller telling Amanda that Melissa was dead, and that he was going to watch her rot. Police traced some of the calls to Madison Square Garden, Midtown Manhattan, and Massapequa, but were unable to determine who was making the calls. Melissa's mother noted that there were a lot of calls to Manorville from Melissa's phone around the time of her disappearance. In September 2017, John Petrolf, a carpenter from the town convicted of 2 other murders, was named as a suspect in the Lisk cases. Megan Waterman, 22, of South Portland, Maine, went missing on June 6, 2010, after placing advertisements on Craigslist as an escort. The day before, she had told her 20-year-old boyfriend that she was going out and would call him later. At the time of her disappearance, she was staying at a motel in Hoapage, New York, 15 miles northeast of Gilgo Beach. Her body was recovered in December 2010. Amber Lynn Costello, 27, of North Babylon, New York, a town 10 miles north of Gilgo Beach, was a prostitute and heroin user who went missing on September 2, 2010. That night she reportedly went to meet a stranger who had called her several times and offered $1,500 for her services. Remains discovered in March and April 2011. The 4 sets of remains discovered on March 29 and April 4 were all within 2 miles and to the east of those found in December. They included 2 women, a man, and a toddler. A skull and a partial set of remains were found on April 11 after the search expanded into Nassau County. They were found about 1 mile apart, approximately 5 miles west of those found in December. Identified Jessica Taylor, 20, most recently of Manhattan, went missing in July 2003. On July 26, 2003, her naked and dismembered torso, missing its head and hands, was discovered 45 miles east of Gilgo Beach in Manorville, New York. These remains were identified by DNA analysis later that year. Taylor's torso was found atop a pile of scrap wood at the end of a paved access road off of Halsey Manor Road, just north of where it crosses the Long Island Expressway. Plastic sheeting was found underneath the torso, and a tattoo on her body had been mutilated with a sharp instrument. On May 9, 2011, it was reported that the remains of a skull, a pair of hands, and a forearm found on March 29 at Yogo were matched to Taylor. She had worked in Washington, D.C., and Manhattan as a prostitute. Valerie Mack, 24, most recently of Philadelphia, was previously dubbed Jane Doe No. 6. A human head, right foot, and hands, found on April 4, 2011, were determined to have belonged to an unidentified victim. The rest of her body was found on November 19, 2000, in the same part of Manorville where most of Jessica Taylor's remains were later discovered. The victim's torso was found wrapped in garbage bags and dumped in the woods near the intersection of Halsey Manor Road and Mill Road, adjacent to a set of power lines and the nearby power line access road. Her right foot had been cut off high above the ankle, possibly to conceal an identifying mark or tattoo. The dismembered remains of Jessica Taylor and Jane Doe No. 6 were both disposed of in a similar manner and in the same town, suggesting a link. In September 2011, police released a composite sketch of Jane Doe No. 6, saying she was about 5 feet 2 inches and was between 18 and 35 years old. On May 22, 2020, Suffolk County Police announced that they had positively identified the remains and would be releasing their identity shortly. On May 28, 2020, it was announced that the remains had been identified as Mack, who had last been seen by family in spring or summer of 2000 in the area of Port Republic, New Jersey. Mack had also gone by the name Melissa Taylor, and had worked as an escort in Philadelphia. Unidentified, John Doe, also discovered on April 4, 2011 at Yogo Beach, very close to where the first 4 were discovered in December 2010, was the body of what appeared to be a young Asian male who died from blunt force trauma. In September 2011, police released a composite sketch of the victim. They stated that he had likely been working as a prostitute and was wearing women's clothing at the time of his death. He was between 17 and 23 years of age, 5 feet 6 inches in height, and missing 4 teeth. He had been dead for between 5 and 10 years. He is believed to have lived as a woman, perhaps being killed when the killer found out he wasn't female. He had some kind of musculoskeletal disorder which would have affected his gait. Baby Doe, the third body found on April 4, 2011, about 250 feet away from the partial remains of Jane Doe No. 6, was that of a female toddler between 16 and 24 months of age. It was a skeleton. The body was wrapped in a blanket and showed no visible signs of trauma. DNA tests determined that the child's mother was Jane Doe No. 3, whose body was found 10 miles east, near Jones Beach State Park. The toddler was reported to be a person of color and was wearing gold earrings and a gold necklace. Peaches Jane Doe No. 3. On June 28, 1997, the dismembered torso of an unidentified young African-American female was found at Hempstead Lake State Park, in the town of Lakeview, New York. The torso was found in a green plastic Rubbermaid container, which was dumped next to a road along the west side of the lake. Investigators reported that the victim had a tattoo of a heart-shaped peach with a bite out of it and 2 drips falling from its core on her left breast. On April 11, 2011, police in Nassau County discovered dismembered skeletal human remains inside a plastic bag near Jones Beach State Park, nicknamed Jane Doe No. 3. DNA analysis identified this victim as the mother of Baby Doe. She was found wearing gold jewelry similar to that of Baby Doe. In December 2016, Peaches and Jane Doe No. 3 were positively identified as being the same person. Jane Doe Number 7 Fire Island Jane Doe. Also on April 11, 2011, at nearby Tobay Beach, a separate human skull and several teeth were recovered. These remains were linked by DNA testing to a set of severed legs found in a garbage bag on Fire Island on April 20, 1996. The victim has a surgical scar on her left leg. Other possible victims. These additional cases have not been officially linked to the other 10 bodies, but are being reviewed by police. 19-year-old Tina Folia was last seen in the early morning hours of February 1, 1982 at a rock music venue in West Islip. She was a known hitchhiker. Her dismembered body was discovered by Department of Transportation workers on February 3 along the shoulder of the Southern State Parkway. Her remains were placed in 3 separate plastic garbage bags, and were found a few miles north of the Robert Moses Causeway, which leads to Yogo Beach and Oak Beach. A diamond ring that Folia was known to wear was missing, and the DNA of an unknown male was found on the garbage bags. Police have not ruled out the possibility that Tina Folia was an early victim of the Long Island serial killer. On March 3, 2007, a suitcase containing the dismembered torso of an unidentified Hispanic or light-skinned African-American female washed up on a beach at Harbor Island Park, in the town of Mamaroneck. The victim had a tattoo of 2 cherries on her left breast, which were similar in appearance to the tattoo found on Peaches. The former was determined to have been stabbed to death. Never identified, the victim is referred to as Cherries by investigators. One of her dismembered legs washed up at Cold Spring Harbor on March 21, 2007, and her other leg washed up at Oyster Bay in the village of Cove Neck the following day. Cherries was dismembered in a fashion similar to 3 other victims: Jessica Taylor, Valerie Mack, and Peaches, meaning she may be linked to the other official victims. On May 17, 2011, the New York Post reported that Long Island police were revisiting other similar unsolved murders of prostitutes. Named in the article was Tanya Rush, 39, a mother of 3 from Brooklyn whose dismembered body was found in a small suitcase in June 2008 on the shoulder of the Southern State Parkway in Belmore, New York. Shannon Maria Gilbert, October 24, 1986. May 1, 2010, was an escort who may have been a victim of the Long Island serial killer. She left for a client's residence in Oak Beach after midnight on May 1, 2010. At 4:51 in the morning, 911 dispatchers received a panicked phone call from Gilbert, who can be heard saying that there was someone after her and that they were trying to kill her. She was last seen a short time later banging on the front door of a nearby Oak Beach residence and screaming for help before running off into the night. After 19 months of searching, police found Gilbert's remains in a marsh, half a mile from where she was last seen. In May 2012, the Suffolk County medical examiners ruled that Gilbert accidentally drowned after entering the marsh. They believe that she was in a drug-induced panic, and have concluded that hers was death by misadventure or inconclusive. Her family believes she was murdered. On November 15, 2012, a lawsuit was filed by her mother, Marie Gilbert, against the Suffolk County Police Department in the hopes of getting more answers about what happened to her daughter the night she went missing. Due to the controversy about Gilbert's death, in September 2014, famed forensic pathologist Dr. Michael Baden agreed to conduct an independent autopsy of Gilbert's remains in hopes of determining a clear cause of death. Upon examination of Gilbert's remains, Baden found damage to her hyoid bone, suggesting that strangulation may have occurred. Baden also noted that her body was found face up, which is not common for drowning victims. Despite this, her death is still officially listed by police as an accident. On July 23, 2016, Marie Gilbert was murdered in her home in Ellenville, New York. Later that day, her younger daughter, Sarah Elizabeth Gilbert, was arrested and charged with the stabbing death of her mother. On May 6, 2020, the New York State Supreme Court ordered Suffolk County Police to release Gilbert's 911 call recording, denying their request to withhold it after more than 10 years. The tapes were released to Gilbert's estate attorney, John Ray, a short time later. Under the court order, Ray is barred from discussing the specifics of the call. However, he did comment that the nature of the calls contradict what Suffolk police said. Vincent Stephan had described in earlier reports about the calls from that morning. Specifically, Gilbert's tone had been described by Dead Stephan as calm, and indicated no desperation. After reviewing the tapes, Ray claims that this is not true. On January 23, 2013, a woman walking her dog found human remains intentionally buried in a small piece of brush in a sandy area along the shore at the end of Sheep Lane in Town, near Oyster Bay. The remains are believed to be of a woman between the ages of 20 and 30, possibly Asian. She was wearing a 22-karat gold pig pendant, which may be a reference in some Asian cultures to the year of the pig. This leads some to believe she died at the age of 29. There was trauma caused to her bones. Investigators believe she was buried before Hurricane Sandy in late 2012. Her case may be connected to the other 10 bodies found 32 miles away in and around Gilgo Beach. On March 16, 2013, a 31-year-old woman, later identified as Natasha Hugo, was last seen leaving her home near Ivy Pond Park, Queens. Her car was found along Ocean Parkway and some of her clothes and belongings were found in the sand near Gilgo Beach the following day. Hugo was described as 5 feet, 7 inches tall, 120 pounds with brown eyes and blonde hair. She was last seen wearing a black robe, pink pajamas, gray hooded sweatshirt, black coat, and black boots. Police are unsure whether the case is connected to the Lisk victims. Hugo's family said that she had a history of problems in which she thought people were following her. On June 24, 2013, Hugo's body was washed up on Gilgo Beach. In popular culture, numerous films, television programs, and podcasts have covered the case, e.g. 48 Hours, Long Island Serial Killer, 1-hour documentary aired the 12th of July 2011, The Long Island Serial Killer, 2013, also known as the Gilgo Beach Murders, an independent feature directed by Joseph DiPietro. People Magazine Investigates, 2016, The Long Island Serial Killer, The Lost Girls, Season 1 Episodes 1 and 2. The Killing Season, U.S. TV series, The Most Dangerous Game, aired November 12, 2016, Season 1, Episode 2. Crime Junkie, Episode 21, Serial Killer, L.I.S.K. released April 16, 2018. Lost Girls, Netflix, 2020. 60 Minutes Australia, Who is the Long Island Serial Killer? Ossuary Podcast, Season 1, Ossuary investigates the Long Island Serial Killer. See also Internet Homicide Cleveland Torso Murderer General. List of serial killers in the United States. References. Further reading. Gallucci, Jacqueline, October 21, 2010. Lost Girls. When Women Go Missing, Some Matter, Prostitutes Don't. Long Island Press. Archived from the original on August 9, 2012. Gallucci, Jacqueline, July 12, 2012. Girls Disappearing. Behind the Headlines of the Long Island Serial Killer Case. Long Island Press. Archived from the original on August 15, 2012. Hannaford, Alex, November 18, 2011. Who Will Catch the Long Island Serial Killer? GQ Magazine. Kolker, Robert. May 29, 2011. A Serial Killer in Common. New York Magazine. Kolker, Robert. Lost Girls. Harper Perennial, 2011. External links, locations and dates of remains discoveries on Long Island. Google Maps. Retrieved January 20, 2015.